All right, here we are now. It's basically the middle of December. This is episode number 44 of the Oklahoma Weather Show. We do this show every single week live on Wednesdays, noon Central. But again, if you are watching us later this evening, you can always find these shows on KOCO.com, on YouTube. We'll push them out on all sorts of social media platforms. We have a lot of fun on this show. It's a very casual show where a lot of times we'll just talk about weather and basically whatever we want to talk about. So we've got a pretty good show lined up today. Today we're going to be reading mean tweets. If anyone ever watches those segments online, those are usually pretty fun to read. Most of them are probably going to be centered around me. I've gotten a couple this week. Shelby's going to be talking a lot about.
I don't get any mean tweets.
I know I've been getting mean tweets. I've gotten a lot of mean tweets. We'll have Shelby talking about what's happening around the Twitter world with weather. Jonathan Conder is going to do a segment called Ask Us Anything. It's basically your time to ask us anything. And Brad Souter in charge of bringing on today's guest of the show. Hey, Brad, introduce who's joining us today.
Well, first of all, a little overwhelmed that we're going to get through all of that in 30 minutes, but look, let's talk here. We have Deke Arndt. He is an OU grad living in Asheville, North Carolina now. Deke was the associate climatologist in Oklahoma for a number of years. He is now at the National Climatic Data Center in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina, where there are a lot of trees. And Asheville is a very pretty place. We really love Asheville. And Deke, your role there is you're a director of. Okay, tell us your role. I'll mess it up somehow. What is your title?
So I'm the chief of the climate monitoring branch. So we're a group of about a dozen meteorologists, climatologists, and drought specialists that monitor climate conditions across the country and the globe.
Great. Well, Deke, we're certainly glad you're here. What we're going to talk a little bit about today is climate, kind of the state of the climate, what you're seeing, and is there really a disagreement between weather forecasters and climatologists? So we're going to try to get into that. We've got a lot packed into 30 minutes here. So, Damon, you wanted to say some bad things people were saying about you.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Hey, before we even jump in, Deke, I want to congratulate you on your bronze medal.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You won. That was. Tell us a little bit first off about what did you win? Yesterday I was with Rick Smith, and all of a sudden all these awards started popping up in his feed. So what'd you get?
So one of the ways that we make sure that the climate information is solid for comparing like today's values to what we saw in the early 20th century, even the late 19th centuries, you've got to take a lot of care and with the climate data from the historical data. So a bunch of people, actually I was only a small part of this team, a bunch of people here at NCDC helped in the process of kind of liberating old data that used to be on paper and putting it in a digital format and then recompiling all that information and basically using a whole bunch more stations from the deep past that we used to have access to rebuild the climate history of the United States. So it was, and it's much more local. So like Oklahoma has 9 climate divisions, and it was essentially rebuilding those climate division histories and implementing all the new data quality techniques. They did an awesome job. It was really fun.
Well, congratulations on your medal, and I do want to mention real quick, looking at that dry erase board behind you is giving me some cold chills. I feel like I'm back in college class again. I'm going to ask about that a little bit later on in the show, but Jonathan, I want to start with you. Jonathan, we're starting this new segment called Ask Us Anything. This can get a little scary sometimes when you put yourself out there, but what are people wanting to know?
Well, we have a mix of questions that came in this morning, and the first one that I have here is from Christopher Mathis, and this came on our OCO First Alert Facebook page, and the question is chemtrails versus contrails. What are the ripe weather conditions?
Man.
Oh, geez.
We're going to get into all of it today, aren't we?
Yeah, this is a big one. So basically, he's wondering, why do we see contrails some days and why do we not see contrails the other day? And I don't even want to really talk about, I mean, we could do a whole segment like chemtrails, the government is trying to spray chemicals. And folks, let's just get it out there. There's just condensation from the jet engines, okay? So there's exhaust coming out, water vapor coming out of the jet engines. They fly up at a very high level. Temperatures are below freeze. It condensates. They get a cloud. They're not cloud seeding. They're not spraying us. They're just like the exhaust you see out of your car on a cold winter day. But, you know, and we can all chime in, but I guess basically what is RH of the atmosphere at that level? The higher the RH, the more predominant the contrails are going to be, the longer they're going to last. And also, is there any lift? You know, you probably wouldn't have, if you have any lift at that level, you know, you probably have the jet contrails last longer. I actually read a pretty good article way back in college about, you know, areas of the upper levels that you'd expect to see them more, but that's kind of just basically it, you know. We could get more into jet dynamics, entrance region, exit region,
Well,
yada,
you know,
yada,
look,
yada.
I'm still waiting to see my paycheck from the government on this one, because I am being accused several times that I am being paid by the U.S. government for not denouncing that they are spraying us. So any moment now, I'm going to go out to the mailbox. My check's going to be there.
It's coming. It's coming. I've seen them all the time. I see those emails coming all the time. You know, I'll just say this: contrails, it's science. That's going to be the easy answer. Can we just say it is science?
All right, chemtrails, contrails, done. What's next?
All right. Shelly Wright wanted to know what are the stats for 2014 tornadoes, and I just did the nation overall. This is what I found. 2014, we've had preliminary tornado reports about 1,025. Pretty close compared to last year, only had 940. Compare this to 2008, which ended with over 2,000. And on average, from 05 to 13, the total for the year is about 1,400, 1,478. So we're below average. It's not the lowest ever. We're ending as a fairly quiet tornado year.
We're at, what, 14 right now in Oklahoma? Deke, when's the last time... well, 14 is going to be a record, right?
Right.
I know we probably don't remember all these numbers off the top of our head, but Deke, how long was it ago that you were in Oklahoma, and what year? Was there a year that you recall that it was this quiet in the Central Plains?
Not this quiet. There were some quiet years. I left in 2009. There were some years there in the 2000s that were relatively light. You know, we went for a stretch in Oklahoma, I want to say from about 2001 or 2003 through 2008 or so without any fatalities in tornadoes. We had a really long, good run of a lack of fatalities in tornadoes in Oklahoma. Nationwide, depending on how many of the preliminary tornadoes verify, we are likely to have one of the quietest tornado years nationwide even in the last 2 or 3 decades.
You know, I got to imagine that that's going to be a pretty big topic that comes out next year at AMS meetings, NWA meetings. The quietness going on here in the United States, is it worldwide? Do we know if it's been this quiet across the world, or is it just the United States with tornado counts?
So for tornadoes, for the most part, it's isn't true all the time. You know, as the United States goes, so goes the world. You know, we kind of lead the world in tornadoes, and especially observed and reported and recorded tornadoes. So the U.S. stats really have a big outsized influence on global trends. And it's been quiet. It's been quiet the last few years.
Well, I can tell you, being in Oklahoma, living in Moore, I'm just fine with that. I'm just fine with the quietness of severe weather that we've had lately. Jonathan, what else is coming in?
There's another one. This is not really, it's weather related, but it's not science related. Eric Church is wondering, all of you have worked in various markets, why OKC? Other than the obvious answer, that is, this is the biggest severe weather market. So,
well, for me, I love severe weather. I came up from Abilene. You know, there are jobs out there that you can get that can either be just a job or something that can help better your career. Meteorologists that come through Oklahoma City, it's a career-making decision, and it helps just launch your career to places that you would have that you probably wouldn't have been able to do elsewhere. So this is a great market, and I knew that back when I was in my 20-somethings and I was a young kid. When Oklahoma City called up, and I said, I got to do this. I got to do this. That's a short answer.
Deke, where are you from originally, and why did you choose OU?
I grew up in the Oklahoma City area. I graduated from Putnam West High School. I lived in Bethany when most of my teenage years. I'm like most weather nerds. I knew when I was 5 that I was going to do meteorology. I liked maps. OU was really, it was kind of a foregone conclusion since I was a kid. Then I kind of caught the drop bug while I was at OU and started chasing that. But it's, you grow up around Oklahoma, you recognize how important the weather is. When you start working with the ag community in Oklahoma, you really recognize how important the climate is. So it's a great place to grow for a number of reasons, but also as a meteorologist.
Absolutely. Brad, your turn. Why are you here?
Really? Okay. Well, it's in the blood. A lot of meteorologists will say that you're just born with this, glued to the window. For me, I like the broadcast aspect of it, the media aspect of it, communicating with people what the weather is going to be. There's a big responsibility of getting out accurate information, as we all know, concise information. And this industry is changing so dramatically. Let's be honest, there are 3, 4, 5 TV stations, media stations per market in the country. With the way things are changing, that's going to change very, very quickly. There's going to be a massive consolidation and cutback. Long story short, media is not going to be what it is today in just a few years from now. The last place that a meteorologist would not be needed is Oklahoma. So for me, this gives myself the greatest opportunity to be successful in the long term with what I love doing.
Shelby, you're new.
Hey, I am new and I'm back home. That's why I want to be in Oklahoma. I grew up like Deke in Oklahoma. You love the weather, you know how important it is, and just means a lot more to be back here home telling people I know what the weather is going to be like.
Jonathan, what you got?
Oh man, can I keep it under a minute?
Try to. We only got 15 minutes left of the show.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Worked here for 5 years. My passion is, I love storm chasing, and moved away and came back as Miss Oklahoma. But my wife is also, she's like a 5th generation Oklahoman. Her great uncle was the 2nd governor of the territory, or great, I forget what governors say. So there's a long lineage on my wife's side, and let me tell you, I tried living in other parts of the country. I love Oklahomans. God, I love Oklahomans. They're so nice.
Absolutely, I agree. We'll have to read some more. I know this show's kind of getting pretty long here. I'm going to do mean tweets real quick. You all ready for this? Everyone going to cue up the music?
Okay.
All right, here we go. This is actually hashtagged under Damon Lane. It is Seminole, not Seminole. You can't be an Oklahoma weather guy and not know how to pronounce city names.
Okay, so how do you say it again? Because people have been writing me and say, will you help Damon with this one?
Seminole. I say Seminole.
Seminole.
I still think you're saying it wrong.
Seminole. Seminole. It is Seminole, not
All right.
Seminole. Tomato, right? Yeah,
No.
okay. Yeah, I don't even know on that one. But, all right, Seminole instead of Seminole. If that even, if people are that.
I've been saying kingfisher wrong. I had a long discussion on Facebook about how I'm saying kingfisher wrong. I was saying it kingfisher. Wait.
You did it.
This is the right syllable.
Kingfisher.
Great frog,
I know. Here's another one I got last night. How much longer do we have to suffer through Damon Lane's weather? Why have him on the screen if all he does is read bullet points off a PowerPoint program? Just run some music and run the PowerPoint program. He can go away. You'll hit a new low until tomorrow.
Nice.
I responded to him, by the way.
Uh-huh.
I asked him what he wanted to see. He said I don't show live radar enough.
Okay.
The closest rain was 500 miles away.
Go the live radar tonight and spend about a minute on it. Zoom into each town, because there's not going to be one echo in the entire state.
I responded to his email in bullet points, by the way.
Hey, just retweet these guys. That's what works best. Just retweet them. The worse they are off, the better.
Yeah. And one more. I got one more that came in. Hold on. This is good. This is good. Let's see if I can. Some guy was mad. It's not pulling up fast enough. Some guy was mad because I said it was supposed to be sunny for the Bedlam game. I never said it was supposed to be sunny for Bedlam game. I don't know where he got that, but whatever.
Oh.
In rant. Seminole. Jeez.
Well, we
Tell me
tried
what you got real quick.
Seattle here for a number of days.
Okay, then looking around on Twitter, found some fun things. Let's show you these. We've been dealing with the fog, so here's a look. Is this showing up right for you guys?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, in Dallas, we saw the images, pretty awesome, of the fog in Dallas earlier this week. And we got a couple different shots of that. This was from Severe Studios. They had found it on Flickr through someone. Just amazing. We had the fog here in Oklahoma. This is from our tower cam on Sunday, or this was Saturday. You can just kind of see over the clouds. But then I got to noticing this week, one of my meteorologist friends that works in Fresno, California, she's talking about their fog delays. So I messaged her and was talking to her about this, and it was new to me. They actually have plans because they deal with fog so much in that area that they have plans of how they're going to get the kids to school, how long they're going to delay school, and all of that to deal with the fog. And
I've never seen that before.
yeah, it was completely new to me. It was pretty cool. She wrote up a blog about it. They have this tool fog in that area, and it's on her webpage. We'll go ahead and give her a shout out. She's got a great name. It's ShelbyLatinoWeather.com. Of course, I like her, right?
Pretty good, actually.
And so I just thought that was really interesting. You know, we were dealing with the fog and thought it was awful we kept having it, but they have it so often they actually have to have plans for how they're going to deal with it getting the kids to school. And then switching gears a little bit, something that caught my eye, this was the National Weather Service Bay Area, a flash flood watch. They put it out, but instead of just saying, hey, flash flood watch, they posted that image in there with it. I feel like that might really reach some people more than just telling them, hey, we're going to have some flooding. Maybe you build an index of what it looks like in areas when it floods. You remind people, hey, this is what could happen.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting. And then, of course, the funny one out of New York, an umbrella graveyard. This is from one of the ABC 7 reporters. They were dealing with the rain and wind this week, and they got to see what we Oklahomans deal with all the time, that umbrellas are not made to handle the rain.
I don't even own an umbrella because I only need to use one like a couple days out of the year, so I don't even bother having an umbrella. Do you all have an umbrella?
In every car, every bag,
car.
everywhere.
Brad?
No, you know, I'd be better off with a helmet, you know, when the hail is coming down.
No kidding.
Awesome.
No kidding. All right, Brad. Well, hey, let's have some fun.
Okay. Well, let's get back to Deke here. Listen, 2014 here. I've been reading. It has been a warm year. Can you tell us how warm across the? I don't know if it's going to be the country or around the world. I guess I've been hearing that 2014 may go down as the warmest year around the world. Is that what you've heard and what you're seeing?
Yeah, so that's one of our functions here, is to track global temperatures, and it's looking more and more likely that 2014, at least nominally, will go down as the warmest year on record, and that's largely driven by the oceans. Pretty much every ocean basin has been really, really warm since late 2013, and we just are probably, depending on how December plays out, it would have to have something really big would have to happen in December. Globally, in order for us not to have the warmest year on record. When you start talking about the statistics, though, and I don't want to dive too deep into statistics, it won't be like a complete standard deviation or beyond a reasonable doubt that it was the warmest, but it will nominally be the warmest, meaning the best estimate, the central estimate of the global temperature is going to be number one, unless something big happens in the last 4 weeks.
How many years of data is that? Are we talking about 30 years, 100 years?
That's going back to 1880, so it's 135 years now.
Wow, so that is significant. Now, the last 5 and 10 years, has each of the last 5 and 10 years been warmer, or what about 2013? What where was it?
So we've been hanging out in this pretty warm neighborhood relative to history since the late 1990s. So 1998 was the warmest year on record, then 2005, then 2010, and now 2014 is going to break that. It goes up and down with each year depending on stuff like El Nino, La Nina patterns, other ocean patterns, just random weather variability. But we've been threatening the warmest year on record for a good number of the years of the 21st century.
Now, a lot of times I'll do stories and I'll talk about how warm it's been for the month or for the last 3 months, and then there's always a response that I get from someone that says, "Oh, the data is flawed. You know that it's not accurate." What's a good response that I could tell these people that always tell me that?
Sure. No. So the data, the observing systems aren't perfect, and we and other centers around the world spend a lot of time and effort and science getting the most that we can out of observations that have been observed with different instruments on different platforms by different groups over time. There is a science to that. It's a well-documented, peer-reviewed science, but there is a science to that to help get the most out of the data, to be the most confident that we possibly can be. And the other thing, if the question is, well, the data are not perfect, therefore the whole thing is not true, the reason that falls apart is the other indicators that don't rely on weather station data are all also pointing in the same direction. So glacier retreat, sea ice retreat, there are no urban areas in the oceans, and the oceans have been very warm. So the other indicators tend to support the land surface record as well.
I like that. Good deal. All right.
So, Deke, there seems to be, I don't know, there seems to be a lot of discussion on where weather forecasters and climatologists disagree whether there is some sort of, whether it's anthropogenic warming, human-induced warming, or whether it can be natural variation. What is there a specific NCDC or NOAA statement about climate change? I know we used to always call it global warming, but I don't even know why the rebrand of climate change came into play. Is there a reason behind that, or is there a NOAA statement on anthropogenic warming?
Yeah, so NOAA basically agrees with the major scientific bodies around the world, all of the professional organizations and science bodies, that the vast majority of the warming that we've seen since the mid to late 20th century is due to increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. There's really no other physical explanation that we can recognize. Mm-hmm. So that's basically the finding of it's a lot bigger than us, the body of science that is looking into this thing. There's really no other explanation. So
where do you think, or guys, Shelby, Damon, Jonathan, chime in, where do you think the misunderstanding is then from the forecaster side? Because actually, let me before we talk about that, let me share some statistics, some research here. Okay, here we go. Actually, I don't have this number, but the George Mason University has been doing some research the last few years on people's view of climate change. In 2010, they did a survey amongst 571 broadcasters, meteorologists, and they found that only about 50% of broadcast meteorologists think that climate change and global warming is actually occurring. So it's saying that 50% of TV meteorologists don't think it's happening. And then there was another study by George Mason University in 2012 surveying 1,800 AMS, American Meteorological Society members, stating that 89% of these respondents right here believe that global warming is occurring, and 46% of those are extremely sure. But then down here, only 59% think that this is caused by human activity or the anthropogenic forces. So even and these 1,800, I was looking at who the sample size was. A lot of them were PhDs, master's students, very respectable people in the broadcast industry. So I guess, what do you guys think is the difference here? Why is there a disagreement? Because a lot of times you hear that there's I know sometimes 97% agree or 98% agree that this is happening, but the studies are showing that that's not the case. So where's the disconnect?
You asking me?
Well, anybody.
Yeah.
I guess this is going to be more of an opinion thing here, obviously, because I don't know.
Yeah. So I think there's a big disciplinary difference in the way that traditional forecasters approach their work, and they see every day of their career the models kind of fall apart after 5, 7, 10 days, and it kind of dissolves into chaos. And to see that every day in your work, I think it's fairly understandable that a lot of forecasters would say, man, if we can't get 10 days, if we can't get 12 days, if we don't know anything about 16 days, how do we know about 10 or 12 or 16 years? The fact is that the climate models, while they're based on the same physics and they do the same type of time steps in forecasting, they're statistical in nature. They're not trying to nail a forecast for a specific spot 50 years in the future, which would be preposterous. What they're doing is trying to come up with the statistics to help us understand, how will the trajectory, how will the overall kind of tendency of the temperatures and other things evolve over time. And those are two different approaches to a similar problem. There's a lot of overlap between weather and climate. Everyone tries to separate us and tear us apart. There's so much overlap, and I could see where if you go to work every day and the models 2 weeks ahead are really, really taken with a grain of salt, it's only natural to apply that to how you look at climate.
I think you also have to look at the window and what you're forecasting, because when I come in and make a forecast, I'm only looking at Oklahoma and west of here. I don't make it a daily habit to look at what's happening globally. So thus, whenever this data comes out, I'm just taking it for its word, because I know that you all at NCDC are paying attention to what's happening around the entire globe. I am not. So I have to rely a lot of what I read through AMS magazines, and all that stuff. The problem, though, is that working in the media, we hear it all. We hear everyone's opinion, and to the point that almost you just have to, you almost don't want to talk about it, because you know that everyone has their own opinion, and it's kind of just that whole political thing. And so I don't really engage in opening up and talking about it a whole lot with other people, because it's become so political.
It's a dangerous discussion. I mean, and for some reason, some groups, some organizations think that our opinions are up for grabs. They're back to that 50% study. I'm getting mail and flyers and brochures in almost weekly from different groups saying, here's why you should believe this, or here's why you should believe this, from pro and skeptical groups. One of the biggest, I don't know where they get all their funding. Actually, I do know. The Heartland Institute.
Mm-hmm.
They have really been hammering away at TV meteorologists to question the research, and recently got a large envelope full of about 100 or 200 names of very credible people with lots of extensive background, and they denying the existence of climate change. And so, and you can go to their website, heartland.org, and see those lists of scientists and researchers. So it's just weird how this has become such a political hotbed, and it only looks like there is more of a separation in where we are. It's almost like race in America. It seems like, for so long, racial barriers were being torn down. We were getting more unified. At least it's the way it appeared. And then all hell breaks loose, and it's kind of like this with climate change. It seems to. I'm not trying to lower the one issue to compare it to the next, but in a sense of that, it's just ridiculous.
So I'm optimistic that the political issue will go away. I mean, the climate change issue, it's with us, and it's going to outlast the political aspect of the climate change issue. And we will eventually get over the politics associated with climate change, and we'll need data to help make decisions. I suspect that the future will bear out that a lot of what climate science has come to know about climate change will play out in reality, but I do think that will outlast the politics of the day. The politics of the day are the politics of the day. Professionally, our job here, just keep an eye on the data, keep following the data, keep packaging the data, and when it becomes more acceptable for more people to say the word climate out loud, we'll be a resource for those folks, and they can use the data to profit, to cut their losses, to make quality decisions, strengthen the economy. So I'm actually optimistic in the long run. It hasn't been a lot of fun in the short run. It probably won't be a lot of fun in the short run, but I think in the long run we'll get our heads around this issue. We'll start making quality decisions.
That's a great explanation. I don't think anyone could probably say it any better than that.
Thank you.
Brad, anything else you want to add?
Oh, well, you know what? I have pages and pages of stuff here. I have way too much. I'll let you guys chime in.
Jonathan, Shelby? No one? No one wants to say anything? I see a bunch of smiles.
We could sit here and debate all day long whether climate change or global warming, whatever you want to call it, is human-induced. It really comes down to we're stewards of this planet. We only have one. The temperature may change. We don't know really how much that's going to change, food production, but I think that'd be the biggest issue. But we're just stewards of this planet. We only have one. Let's take care of it. Let's just take care of this planet, make it last really long. Recycle, reuse, don't waste. I think it's kind of hard for me when I see, okay, there's an incentive here maybe to be cleaner, and then your large industrial nations, which are just, let's say China, huge consumers of coal and just throwing up a lot of pollution. That's kind of hard. We're doing our part, and our neighbors next door are keeping their yard dirty, and that's going to blow over into our yard. So I think, it has to become not just here, neighbor across the street, literally your guy cross recycling, but we globally have to come together and be stewards of this planet. Just keep her clean.
If James Spann were here right now, he probably would have hit the buzzer a long time ago. But yeah, so all right. Well, hey, Brad, anything else you want to add?
Well, let's see. Where would I go from here? I guess Deke is what's NCDC doing today? Does NCDC work with IPCC on policies and the United States government on I know this is opening up a new can. I wanted to kind of get here on policies on greenhouse emissions. What are you doing? What is the department doing with the government?
So NCDC, we don't work on policy. We work on the science and the data. There are people that are a lot more attuned to policy that work on policy. I mean, our job is to make sure that the data that's collected around the U.S. and around the world is properly archived, is stewarded, is taken care of, is available for your grandchildren and my grandchildren when they come to get it in the future with whatever technology we've invented by then. So that's our primary job. Take care of the data, make the data available. Because we happen to be sitting on top of the world's data history, we assist with a lot of the science and the assessment that go on related to What changes have we seen? Is it in line with what science expects? Are there any surprises in that data? Are there recent trends? And that's where our monitoring group comes in. It kind of does the play-by-play of the climate system. So we're not involved in the policy, the data, and the conclusions that are drawn from that data. Those do eventually get slurped into the policy world, but we stay away from the policy.
Where is the policy world? Where does the data go from you, and who are these policy makers? Are they climatologists? Are they lobbyists? I mean, who?
So I think the American people own the policy process, and they do that through elections and through the agencies that represent the nation's priorities. So it's ultimately the people, and the people that are elected by the people, they determine policy, and we're happy to assist with any kind of data that is needed. Just like you were alluding to, several of you, it's a complex world, and there's a lot of actors out there, and the U.S. can't control all of them. So making sure that the policies, the science, the data is only a small piece of that big equation that they're working on.
So you're saying there really isn't another layer of climatologists sitting in a dark room with a red phone in front of them?
If there is, I haven't been invited to that room yet. So. Our job is to take care of the data. We take an oath to take care of the data, to steward the data. We get data from the Weather Service, from all kinds of observing platforms, and our job ultimately at the end of the day is to help the data tell the story of the climate system today, and to make sure that our kids can get to this same data tomorrow.
Now, is all that going to be, you were just talking about earlier how you've been basically digitizing it. When can we all have access to it?
It's free and open access to anything that, any weather observation that has been taken. Almost all of it has now been digitized, so you can download the data. There are images of the actual forms that were filled out in beautiful handwriting in 1878. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's, like Thomas Jefferson wrote on one of them, and
which one's that? I want to find that one.
Yeah, no, it's amazing stuff. I think that's actually the National Archives now, but yeah. So there's a lot of old data, a lot of old forms. It's really cool, just as a student of history of science, to see how we've come along. In the Civil War and in the years just after the Civil War, the surgeon at the U.S. Army post was also the meteorologist that recorded the observation. So you get to see a lot of really cool stuff from history.
I would love it if you all put out a web page that just said, the top 10 coolest weather observations ever taken, and you show some of these historical ones.
I'm taking notes right here. Here we go.
The Mesonet, the Oklahoma Mesonet, just put that on a T-shirt. It was super cool.
Yeah.
I feel like a dork when I go out and wear it, but I love it. I love it.
So can I say hi to my friends at the Mesonet? I was there for 15 years. I used to write the ticker. I don't know if you guys get the ticker from Gary.
Yes. So you're Gary McManus before Gary McManus.
We shared an office for a couple hundred years. Gary's a great guy. He does a super job. I love reading his stuff.
Well, tell you what, plug away. Whoever you want to say hi to, open mic.
I want to say hi to Gary. How's it going, Gary? And Mom. Hi, Mom, out there in Luther. How you doing?
Hey, Deke, let me ask you real quick, too, the students and the up-and-comers that are watching this, they love climate. They want to work at NCDC. What's the path they need to go to get in the building?
I think there are a lot more opportunities to kind of go take classes in climate than there were when I was college age. I'm a rank-and-file meteorologist by training. The thing is, climate is really big, and so there's no complete ownership by any discipline. There are biologists working on it, chemists, atmospheric chemistry, straight up meteorologists like myself. Geography has a huge role to play. So really, any of those earth sciences and even life sciences disciplines have a lot to do with climate, and increasingly, just like with weather, social science is really important. Understand how these things, how climate, how it affects people in different places with different incomes, with different backgrounds. That's going to become more important. Again, as we can all kind of say the word climate out loud to each other, that's going to become important. We're going to need to really understand both the physical impacts and what it means for our economy and our people. So there's a lot of angles into climate. For NCDC, if you're data nerd and a statistics geek, you know, we might have a chair for you.
I should have paid a lot more attention back when I was at UNCA. We actually had a climatology track, but it was never. There was only about 2 or 3 people in my.
We had Tim Owens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim hired me. He was my boss when I first started.
Okay. Tell Tim we said hi.
Okay, he's a great guy too. Yeah.
Good deal. So, well, I guess we'll have to wrap this up. But hey, we'll send you a nice little thank you gift, Deke, for coming on here. And next time you're back out here in Oklahoma, let us know. We'll all grab a bite to eat.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.